we want to begin our job search. It's important that your profile is ready because we know that they're going to look at your profile. And so job searching, what I'm going to do is, again, go in and out of the presentation and into LinkedIn Live to show you how this works. So for job networking, the first thing you need to do is do a job search and save that job search and set alerts. And that's because every morning you'll get a notification of the new jobs that were listed in that category. And the quicker you can be to apply to the new jobs, the more visible your resume is going to be. I told you earlier about the job search that I'm doing for one of my customers. And in one day, I've got 19 applications. Well, yesterday, the first 4 people that came in, I looked at all of their profiles. Now, because I'm getting so many, I'm actually looking to see if they just fit the criteria. So try and be one of those early people. Once you're in the job that you're looking for, you want to try and figure out who the recruiter is or who the hiring manager is. And I'm going to show you how to do that live. Then we want to find out who their sphere of influence is. Remember, I told you earlier, 5 people plus are involved in every decision. And so if it's an engineering job led by an engineering leader, I can likely locate that person and then try and figure out who works on his team, who the peers might be, who that boss might be. And I want to take the same kind of motions that I'm going to teach you here in a second. Then you want to follow the company, and then you want to look for common connections by visiting that person's profile. Now, one step deeper, once I've identified the recruiter or the hiring manager, I'm going to go look at their profile. The reason I do that is they get a notification that says, Dave Elsner just looked at your profile, and I want my name to be seen before they see my resume. Then I'm going to find things that I have in common with them so that I can use that later, either in the interview or in one of the follow-up emails that I send to them. Then I'm going to follow them, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And you follow them under the More button, and they get another notification that Dave Elsner just followed you. Even better, later when I send a connection request, if they engage with me, it says, Dave Elsner follows you and is asking you to connect. So that follow button is very important. Then we're going to ring the bell on their notifications. I'll show you how to do that live. That's important because anytime they have any activity on LinkedIn, it'll appear in your bell and your notifications, so you know you can now engage with their content. You're going to go to their activity and you're going to comment on a post. They're going to get a third notification. So what they are seeing is they're getting a notification that Dave just visited my profile, Dave just followed me, and now Dave's engaging with my content. He must really be interested in this job and doing his research to figure out what this is all about and what I'm all about. I actually feel honored by the fact that you did that. So you're also going to look at their comments that they may have made, and I'll show you how to do that, and potentially join that conversation. And we're going to join that conversation again so they get another notification. So only then do you send your resume. And again, the reason for that is name and brand recognition. So what I'm about to show you only takes about 5 minutes to get through. So I identify a job, I figure out who the hiring manager is, I do these key actions by looking at their profile and following them. Then I go back and submit my resume. On LinkedIn, there's this thing called the easy apply button, and it's really not so good because it's kind of like it fills out a self field and then you submit your resume. I'm not saying don't do that, but also see if you can find their email and email the resume as another way to get your name and face in front of them. Now, if you get to the bottom of their profile and you see that you don't have anything in common, what I encourage you to do is join one of the groups that they're a member of. That way you can say we're both a member of the cybersecurity professionals group, and you've now created commonality. now is not the time to send a connection request. They haven't engaged with you at all. And I'm going to teach you later how to send a proper connection request and when to send it. The important thing here is that we want to drive engagement back towards us. So if we see that they viewed our profile, if they've engaged with our content, or they've liked a comment maybe that I made on one of their posts, those are 3 good reasons to send that connection request. I call it reciprocal engagement. And so don't send that connection request until it's reciprocal. And I'll show you why, and that's important. Okay, so we're going to go back to LinkedIn Live, and I'm going to show you how to do a job search and the motions that we go through to improve our chances of getting a job. So step number 1 is this button up here called Jobs. I click on the Jobs button, and this page comes up. And then I use the search bar on the very top, and I'm going to go ahead and stay with the cybersecurity. And there it is right there. So I'm looking for a cybersecurity job. And you see I've got 3,900 results. That's probably too many. And so you can go and select these additional bubbles to narrow down your search. I definitely would do date posted, because if it's older than a week, then there's probably too many applicants already. I wouldn't do any time, that's for sure. So I'm just going to say the past week. Then I'm going to go experience level. I'm going to look at the salary ranges. I don't do companies because I want to see all the companies that have cybersecurity jobs. I will select on-site or remote or hybrid. And usually I select, the one that's most appropriate for the job that I'm looking for. Do not select the easy apply. And then the final thing you can do is you can either click on all filters, or you can come back up here and specify the area that you want this job in. So I'm just going to do Las Vegas because that's where I live. And now I'm going to click search again. And now I have 1,500 results. And that is a lot. Man, there's a lot of job openings in cyber right now. So now I can click on this all filters button to get my search down even further. You'll see that there's a lot of additional categories. So I can do industry, I can do job function, I can do the actual title I'm looking for. I can look for companies with benefits, look for their commitments to diversity and inclusion. And so those are ways that I can narrow my search down. All right. So once I've got my search set up, I want to select this set alert button. So by turning that on, every morning, I will be notified of any jobs that were posted based on the criteria that I selected first. And I'm actually going to unselect that because I don't want those notifications. All right, so here's the first job that we see pop up. Regional sales director must be for cybersecurity. So here's a cybersecurity auditor. Okay, so I'm actually going to go back to this one first, because what you'll notice, oops, I selected it. That's okay. We're going to go back. All right, there we are. So here's the job here, and you'll see that you get a preview of it on the right side of your page. So right away, I notice I've identified a recruiter. The hiring manager is not listed, but I can still try and figure out who that person is. I'm going to read about the job itself, what skills I need. And you know what? The skills that you entered earlier match up with the jobs. So you see, I have 2 skills on my profile that match this job description. It tells me how many people have applied. Already 79 on this job, and it's less than a week old, just to give you a flavor. It tells you a little bit about your competition. It tells you about where the applicants are located. But here's the important thing. We're going to go all the way near the bottom here, and we're going to follow this company. The reason I'm going to follow that company is that I want to see their content. I want to engage with their content so that the hiring manager and the recruiter potentially see my interest and interaction with the business itself. Okay, so I was lucky enough that I found who the recruiter is. So these are my motions. I'm going to click on the recruiter's name, and there's her profile. And then I'm going to click the More button here, and I'm going to follow that person. So now they get a notification that I've looked at their profile and that I followed them. The third action I'm going to do is I'm going to ring this bell. And that bell appeared when I follow the person. Watch, when I unfollow them, the bell is gone. But when I follow them, a bell appears. That bell represents this bell up on top. So when I ring her bell by just clicking it, now whenever she does something or anything on LinkedIn, it's going to appear up here in my notifications. And I'll show you notifications later. All right, so I looked at her profile, I followed her, I rang her bell. Now I'm going to go down and look for her activity. And here's her activity here. And this is not an active person. The last time she posted something was 1 year ago. But you know what? That doesn't matter. Because in fact, she's still going to get a notification if I comment on it. So she posted about Minneapolis airport, completed successful. And so I'm just going to make a simple comment on this one. Congrats on that achievement. And I'm going to post it. And now she got a notification. Now, the other thing I can do is you notice up here on the top, I just looked at her posts. I could also look at, does she ever comment on anything? And so she did. She commented on this. And so I'm either going to also make a comment or I'm going to like the comment that she made. So in this case, I'm just going to like it. So now I've done 5 things and she's gotten 5 notifications. Lydia definitely knows that I'm interested in this job. And my work is done here, except now I go back to jobs. And I'm going to have to retype cyber because I didn't save it. Cybersecurity. We said Las Vegas. And of course, that same job isn't going to pop up again because I don't have all the same filters. But now I'm going to apply for that job. And there's your apply button right there. I'm going to continue. And then I'm going to go through their application process. And in this case, it took me to their website, which is good. I'm going to look for jobs and I'm going to explore that and submit my resume. Now, the only other thing I haven't done is shown you that when it doesn't list who the recruiter or hiring manager is, what you need to do. So remember, I told you to come down here and follow the company. I'm going to go ahead and follow Netscope. And then I'm going to go to the Netscope page. And I know that this job was posted in Los Angeles. I know that it was a cybersecurity job. And so I'm just going to go down on the Netscope page to people here. And you'll notice in this area right here, it allows me to filter down. And so I'm going to go to show more. They don't actually have Las Vegas listed, but for demonstration purposes, I'm going to say California. And what happens is each time I select one of these categories, it narrows the amount of people that I'll see. And so I don't care about where they went to school, except, in fact, if I went to a similar school. Like if I went to Stanford, or Santa Clara, I would want to click on that and figure out who also went to the same school, because they might be helpful in my job search for this particular job. Then you'll notice on the arrow, I can scroll across. So now I can go there, probably in engineering, since it's an engineering job. I don't really care about what they're skilled at in this case or what they've studied. I'm going to say they study computer science. All right, so now I've just got 100 employees that I have to look through. And I'm basically going to go to the bottom of the page now and scroll through this and look for who the likely hiring manager is. So it might be the senior director of engineering here. You notice he says hiring security. It might be a cloud security engineer, or it might be a decision maker. And so what you're doing is you're going for the most likely person that would have that job opening. And I'm going to go through the same motion. So this guy said that he's hiring. So I'm going to go to his page. I'm going to follow him. I'm going to ring his bell. I'm going to comment on one of these things. And then I'm going to go back and apply for the job. All right. So just to take you back, we're going to do a job search. We're going to save our search and set alerts. We're going to find either the recruiter or hiring manager. We're going to figure out who their sphere of influence is. We're going to follow the company, and we're going to look for common connections that we can leverage. Then we look at their profile. They get a notification. We find things we have in common. We follow them. We ring their bell. We get active and engage with their content. And that, in a minute, I'm going to teach you how to post your own content, to get them, once you're connected, to see your content. And only then are we going to send our resume, because now we have name and brand recognition. Now, when you engage with their feed, let's say you go to their activity and you take a look at their engagement, and Lydia, the one that we looked at, wasn't very active, but many people are active, especially if they're hiring managers or recruiters. You got the ability to like something, to comment on something. You can actually share their post. And that goes a long way if you're to reshare, because it says that you're really interested in what they posted. And you can do what we call an at mention if you want to draw somebody's attention to something of interest. Now, the like button is good, but I encourage you hover over the like button and select one of these. The reason for that is that when you like something, they get a notification that says Dave, John, and 20 other people liked your post. Whereas if you say, I support it, love it, it was insightful, I want to celebrate it, then they get a separate notification with only your name, because very few people do that. So here are the additional ways that you can engage. And there is a ton of ways to engage on LinkedIn. Obviously update your profile regularly. Use and follow hashtags. And when I say use and follow, remember we created hashtags. Therefore, we can click on those hashtags and find people that have used that same hashtag. Or we can use those hashtags when we post something on LinkedIn, and it creates a community of posts associated with that hashtag. You can engage in groups. I showed you how to join groups earlier. You can recommend or endorse somebody. So when I got to Lydia's page, I could have gone down to her skills and endorsed her for a skill, and she'll get a notification. You can attend or promote events. You can utilize LinkedIn stories to repost those. You can engage with analytics, share success stories, participate in LinkedIn live events, engage with company pages, alumni. You can give recommendations. You can endorse a skill, celebrate a milestone. And a milestone is, once you're following somebody, if it's their birthday, you get a notification. If it's they just got a job promotion, you get a notification. If they just changed jobs, you get a notification. If it's their work anniversary, you get a notification. So take advantage of checking your notifications for additional ways to engage. And, earlier I told you to do those 5 actions and then send your resume. That doesn't mean engagement stops. Remember, you ring their bell. And because you ring their bell, as you're going through the interview process, continue to do these engagement things to continue to let them see your name over and over and over again. You can also engage in polls. and surveys on LinkedIn. So remember, I talked about, referral-based networking. Always check common connections. And if I can go back to, my profile here real quick, let's see who comes up in. So here's one of the guys that applied for my job. And you'll notice right here, he has 335 connections, but I have a mutual connection with him. And I happen to know Brandon. And so this mutual connection could be really good for me figuring out who the hiring manager is, getting a recommendation for interview. And so you want to leverage those. I would just go to Brandon's page and I would send him a message that says, hey, I see you know person. And so can you give me an introduction or put in a good word for me? And so use that kind of commonality because it's going to get you a lot farther, a lot faster. All right, job searching. This is my guidance on when it's time to connect. So first of all, when you send a connection request, it's always a custom message of thanks. Don't just use what LinkedIn gives you to connect to somebody by clicking that easy connect button. So what I do is if they look at my profile, I send them a connection request. When they ask you to connect, and you'll be surprised, I do it. All of the people that are sending resumes that I think are qualified, I'm sending them a connection request because I want to see their full profile. And maybe when they like your engagement. So you've commented on one of their posts and they clicked the like button. That is another reason to send a connection request because now you have reciprocal engagement. So if there's no reciprocal engagement, it's time to send a connection request after a couple weeks. And what I like to do is I like to use what we call the CVC method. That's commonality, the value you offer, and a call to action. And so a simple one would be, hey, I see we both live in the same area. Hey, I see we're both interested in the same industry or work in the same industry. Or, hey, I see you know Bob. I also know Bob. So that's your commonality. You can also add value by saying, I'm interested in this job and this is the value that I bring. I want you to see my full profile as we explore whether or not this is a good job opportunity for the both of us. And then your call to action is simply, let's connect. Keep it simple. Don't ask for a meeting. Don't ask for an appointment. Make it easy on them to accept that connection request because they don't see the content that you post until you're connected. So once you're connected, continue engaging. Now is not the time to pitch on LinkedIn. We want them to see your content. We want them to see your value. And we want to look for open door opportunities to engage with that person. All righty. Now, one other note, a lot of us use mobile. If you were to click just the connect button, it instantly sends a connection request that basically says, something very bland. It's not personalized at all. So what you want to do is you want to click on these three dots on your mobile, then click on personalize invite, and then use that CVC method that I just taught you. So commonality, value, and then a call to action.